morning, everyone. As Tom just said, my name is Karen Shepley, and I'm here to introduce Lieutenant Colonel Jill Bishop. We were always known as the Highland Twins. Anyway, let me tell you a little bit about Jill and why she is deserving of this award. Upon graduation from KCSS, Jill joined the Canadian Air Force and attended Royal Military College in Kingston. And there she obtained a mechanical engineering degree, specializing in aeronautics. And then early in her career, Jill developed an interest in helicopter aviation and became one of the few women in the country with this unique knowledge and skill set. Some of her projects have made an impact on the lives of those in the Canadian military and civilians alike. And I'm just going to explain some of the projects that she worked on over the last several years. She designed a helicopter-specific water bucket system that is now used by military and search and rescue units across the country in the efforts to fight forest fires. She coordinated the transportation and potential evacuation plan for world leaders during the G8 and G20 summits in Muskoka and Toronto in 2010. She was deployed to Afghanistan to oversee the Canadian Forces aviation contribution in conjunction with the peacekeeping mission at the time. And this one is my favorite. She has coordinated Operation Ho Ho Ho, and that's a mission developed for children at Sick Kids Hospital. Many children need to stay at the hospital over Christmas time, and as you can imagine, they get quite concerned that Santa won't be able to find them because they're at the hospital instead of in their homes. Operation Ho 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 solves this concern. Close to Christmas, Jill's helicopters deliver Santa along with gifts for all the kids so that they can put their minds at ease and be normal kids for a day. So it's all these things and more, very many more stories I could tell you, that led to her recent promotion as commander of 400 Squadron. The squadron is based out of CFB Borden and oversees maintenance and missions of all the helicopters across the Canadian Forces. In the 80-year history of the squadron, Jill is the first woman to become its commander. But everyone knows that Jill became commander not because she was the best woman for the job, but because she was the best person for the job. In fact, this position is so prestigious in the Canadian military that they held a parade in Jill's honor at CFB Borden when she took over command. So imagine a parade in your honor. I must admit, leading up to the event, I made her say over and over, "I hope it doesn't rain on my parade." Because really, who can say that and like mean it? So, anyhow, I should also mention that Jill's husband, Colonel Tim Bishop, is in attendance here today. He is also a highly decorated officer who has been involved in almost every Canadian peacekeeping mission over the last 25 years. One could say that Jill and Tim are Canada's military power couple. They have faced incredibly challenging circumstances and have been able to provide solutions in situations that would provide difficult for most. So it boggles my mind when the family cat got a bladder infection, they could not figure out how to get the cat to swallow a pill. All that experience in the most demanding of circumstances, civil unrest, no problem. Fighting the Taliban, no problem. Oreo the cat, now that's a big problem. But anyway, I digress. At this time, I am very proud to introduce one of this year's award winners. She is my best friend, but not only my best friend, she is also my sister. But she's not only my sister, she is my twin sister. So I'd like to invite up to talk to you, Commander, Lieutenant Colonel Jill Bishop.
Thank you, Karen. That was an amazing introduction. 30 years ago, in the fall of 1986, the graduating students of my year were coming back to KCSS for our commencement. It was an exciting event as we could check in with our friends to see whether or not the path they had started upon finishing their final year of high school had come to fruition, or if in fact they were headed down the probable future as stated in our KCSS yearbook. For me, it was a bit of both. My future was engineering at university, while my probable future was Minister of National Defense of Nogies Creek. Since graduating, I joined the military with the goal of becoming an aerospace engineer. I'd gone through basic training and had started my studies at Royal Military College of Canada in Kingston, where I took mechanical engineering. Every student from RMC attended their commencement in full dress uniform of bright red and gold braid. I remember walking in the school when David Cook, who's here today, a fellow student, remarked, "Will you take a look at that?" I'm sure my fellow students and teachers that knew me in 1986 probably wouldn't have guessed that I would go on to have a full career in the Canadian Armed Forces. When I look back at those days at KCSS, which had a great impact on my career, when you are a high school student, you have no understanding of the influence the teachers have on you. It is only after time has passed that you reflect on that time so long ago and am able to assess. So I will share with you a few memories from my time at KCSS, the teacher responsible, and how I took that experience and used it in my career. The first teacher I would like to mention is Mr. Sanderson. Mr. Sanderson was my math teacher, and math was my favorite subject. Now, Mr. Sanderson didn't create my love for math, nor inspire me to become an engineer. That being said, I vividly remember Mr. Sanderson saying one day that he followed his students' success in university because he knew his class properly prepared his students to do well in their future. It was the pride that he took in that responsibility. It wasn't just about teaching the math skills, but preparing the students for their future. Personally, I remember an occasion when he presented me with a math award. He demonstrated a considerable amount of pride in that achievement. That is what I remember the most. Today, and especially as commanding officer at a helicopter maintenance unit, I constantly tell my subordinates how proud I am of the work they do, especially in the face of insurmountable challenges. It is the pride others have in you that instill confidence from within. The next teacher that I would like to mention is Mr. Sinyard. Now, Mr. Sinyard was my geography teacher. And given my opportunity in the military to travel, but again, it wasn't about the geography. I remember Mr. Sinyard wasn't a teacher that would stay in the classroom between classes or go to the staff room. He was a teacher that would be in the hallway striking up conversations with the students. I recall Mr. Sinyard talking to me in the hall one day about how unique our class was and that we all intermingled so well instead of forming cliques. I think teachers do not necessarily realize how much they enable such an atmosphere. It was because of teachers like Mr. Sinyard that I realized that relationships among students and staff are very important, and it is important to have fun in everything you do. Social interaction and school spirit may not sound terribly applicable to military life, but that's not totally true. Instead of social interaction, we call it camaraderie. Instead of school spirit, we call it esprit de corps. I love my job, and these are the things that make my job most enjoyable. The next teacher I would like to mention is Mr. Thompson. Mr. Thompson taught me science, but as the trend goes, it wasn't about the science. Mr. Thompson also coached the girls' field hockey team. Even back then, I remember thinking that he must have drawn the short straw to get such an assignment. I'm sure he was totally outside of his box, but he took on this task and turned it into an opportunity. That first year, we didn't win any games, but we had a lot of fun. As much as Mr. Thompson was likely outside of his box, the military is all about pushing individuals outside of their boxes. And this was especially true during basic training. I remember in basic training, one task we needed to accomplish with confidence was to rappel down a large rock face. I'd never done this before and was a little nervous as I went over the edge, but I quickly got the hang of it. and was enjoying this new experience. Of course, as learned from Mr. Thompson, this was a perfect opportunity to learn a new skill and have fun doing it. However, basic training isn't a time to show you are having fun. It just shows the directing staff that you are not far enough outside of your box. So halfway down the cliff, the directing staff had me stop, told me to lean back until I was perpendicular with the cliff, and the question came, "Officer Cadet Hyland, where are you from?" "King City," I proudly said, likely with a smile still on my face, which only served to tell them I was not yet outside of the box. I was told to lean back farther and felt I was almost upside down when the next question came. "What is a girl from King City doing in a place like this?" Although I felt a little more outside of my comfort zone, I replied to become an engineer sergeant, again smiling. They let me carry on down the cliff, likely frustrated. I seemed to enjoy the experience, but there would be many more opportunities to come to push me outside of my box. The final teacher I would like to mention is Mr. Gould. He taught me French. Now, I thought Mr. Gould was the best example of a teacher who made classes fun. Although not my strongest subject, his classes were so much fun that I always wanted to take more French classes. And wouldn't you know it, from math to science to geography, during my career as an engineer in the military, the only subject I still use every day is French. The military, being a federal organization, takes pride in being bilingual, and certainly many of my subordinates are French Canadians. It helps when I can carry on a conversation in their language. To end, I have a few more thank yous. First is to Mr. Ellison. I never had Mr. Ellison as a teacher, but everyone knew him. He was and still is the glue that connects graduating students with KCSS through the years. Tom, I appreciate the honor of being recognized here today, but most importantly, I appreciate the opportunity to share the impact that the teachers from 30 years ago had on my career and still influence me today. Finally, I would like to thank Karen for nominating me. The only regret I have with respect to my career in the military is that it puts a significant amount of physical distance between me and Karen. Additionally, I know my deployment to Afghanistan put stress on her and my mom, but it was the highlight of my career. I'm so glad to be back in the local area with both of them, and it is with pride that I am able to talk to all of you today. Thank you.